Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's podcast episode. Today, we're going to talk about apartment hunting. So, apartment hunting, it's a term, it's popular, right? It's professional, right? But it's modern. It means finding an apartment, right? So, we're going to talk about houses, renting, you know, anything that has to do with that. A little bit of real estate, some great real estate terms that we're going to cover here. And we're also going to discuss a few tips, right? When you choose a place, to live in, right? So if you are listening to this and you don't know me, then I'm David, and I help intermediate and advanced students, English learners, become confident English speakers. So my lessons are not for beginners. They're only for people who already know English, but want to take their English to the next level, right? Because there's the English that you learn at school, which is great. It's basic, just the grammar and the regular vocabulary. And then there's the real English that we use in a business setting, in companies, in international organizations, right? So there's two different levels, right? There's a basic one to survive, and then there's the advanced one, which is to thrive and to really, communicate in the highest circles and at the highest levels. And that's what I specialize in. So if you want to learn with me, then join me in my Zoom calls. I can coach you. I can help you. You can join my live calls. We have some every single day. People in Asia, people in Europe, people in Africa. We have some classes, some students from South America, from North America. It's great, right? So everyone is welcome. All right, so let's get started here. Okay, so first of all, some basic vocabulary, right? So apartments, that's what we use in the US. In Britain, they use flats and houses. So in our live call, we're going to think about the places that we've lived in, the apartments, the houses, the flats that we've lived in. And we're going to also talk about what we like and dislike about them, right? So think about, the size, right? Think about the location. Think about the amenities. What problems have you had, right? Also talk about the place that you live, where you live right now. There's something special or interesting about it. What makes your place special? So I'll tell you about my place right now. I'll answer all these questions. So I'm renting a flat in Prague, right? It's in Prague 3. So it's a good location. I can walk to the center and be, on Charles Bridge in about 20 to 25 minutes, right? And walking, I can take the tram and be there in 15 minutes, or a bus. So great location, a lot of restaurants, a lot of parks close to where I live. So that's what makes it special, right? Everything is close. It's super, super practical, and it's also beautiful. It's a beautiful part of the city. So that's what's interesting about it. Now, we're also going to talk about the advantages and disadvantages of each one of these situations. So renting a flat or a house, right? So there are some advantages and some disadvantages, some good things and some bad things, right? But a lot of people, instead of renting it, they buy it. Of course, when you buy, there are also positives and negatives, right? So what if you want to move? What if you don't like your neighbors, right? If you bought the house, you're stuck there. Of course, you could always resell it, but that can that can cost you, and it might not be the fastest. But if you're renting, you can move out. So you're very, you have that flexibility. Now, roommates. I used to have roommates, and they were good guys, and they were my friends, so it worked out. But living with a roommate, there are some advantages. You can save money on rent. You can have a friend that you can talk to, so you're not lonely, right? But there are also disadvantages. Right now, I live by myself, and I'm very happy. Because, with roommates, sometimes they make noise, sometimes, they eat your food, or sometimes they're not very clean. All right. So if you like to let's say, if you live a very orderly life, if you like order, and if you're very neat and clean, then you need to find a roommate who's the same way. If not, you might have a few issues there, right? And so but without a roommate, right? That there are some other situations there too. So here are some words, right? So these are, I'm going to give you the definition. In class, you will explain these words to your partner. And so it's good to listen to me right now and get the official definition, but then also be able to explain these words because they are very important. And if you are looking for an apartment in the UK or in the US or in Australia, Ireland, Scotland, New Zealand, South Africa, or any other English-speaking place, and actually most places right now speak English, so if you're trying to communicate, you're going to need these. So landlord is the person that owns the apartment and is renting it to you. They are the landlord. The tenant is the person who rents, right? Who pays the landlord every month, right? To rent it. The rent amount, that's pretty easy. It's what you pay every month. The security deposit. Security deposit is, let's say when you move in, right? When you say, I want to live here. I want to rent this apartment. Your landlord is going to say, you know what? You need to pay me this amount in the beginning, and I'll give it back to you when you move out, right? In a lot of places, it's 1 month's rent, so it's not too much. Other places, it's 3 months' rent. And of course, if there are any damages, the landlord can deduct, the repair costs. They can deduct that from the security deposit, right? So it's what you give before. The lease is the rent, right? So you have the lease agreement, which states how many months you're going to stay there, how much you will pay every month, some other conditions maybe, that you can't have a pet inside the house, for example, you can't make noise, or there's a lot of that, but the lease is the rent, right? So the lease or to lease is to rent. Same meaning, exactly the same. And the realtor's fee. A realtor is a real estate agent. Their job is to find apartments or homes or to rent or to sell, right? So rent, well, to buy, to sell, or to rent. So they are like the middlemen. Let's say I have a house that I want to rent out. Well, I can call a realtor and he can find a buyer and he can take care of the contracts and he can take care of all the agreements. But of course, I'll have to pay him a fee. The fee is the amount that I pay the realtor. It can be a percentage of the monthly payment, or it can be a flat fee, for example, $1,000, $500, or more, depending on the house or the apartment, right? So in class, you're going to discuss, what are some characteristics of a good landlord? What about a tenant? What are some characteristics? What are some, how do you describe a good tenant? Tenant is someone who rents. Okay. Why are security deposits important? I already explained a little bit of that. So why are they important? Why are they necessary? Why do we have them? Why not just, okay, I'll rent it and I'll pay you every month? You see, so talk about that. What are some important parts of a lease? So a lease is, the contract to rent, right? And terms, what terms might be included? So terms is when you have a contract, you have terms. That's the word. Very good word. You can use it in whatever industry you are in. The terms are like the conditions. Sometimes you have terms and conditions. And these are the things that the different parties need to do, in the contract. For example, term could be, let's say you will pay for electricity, or the tenant will pay for electricity and for the internet and for the gas, and it's all included in the flat fee. So you need to negotiate the terms. That's very, very important. All right. So we're also going to discuss about what topics. So think about this before you come to class. Think about what are some important topics to discuss with the realtor or the owner when you meet them to view an apartment or a house. Of course, before you move in, before you choose a place to live, right? You need to view it. View. So that's a very good word. You view an apartment, you view in a house, you check to see it, you check it. You can get an inspection, which is more than viewing. An inspection, you get a professional, and a professional inspector. They can check the roof, they can inspect the foundation, they can inspect the electricity, right? But if you just want to take a look and look around and see if it's okay, you are viewing it, or it is a viewing. You can also say a viewing, right? So what are some things that you need to discuss? And of course, think of other things. Don't just think about the rent amount. That's very easy. Think of other things that are important to discuss with the realtor or the real estate agent, right? Or the owner, right? So here are some vocabulary words here. Now, we talk about, the square meters, right? Or the square feet in a flat or in an apartment. That's the size. So people talk about, hey, what's the square footage? Because I'll say square footage. In America, we use feet. In Europe, we use square meters. So how many square meters? Is a flat? You're asking about the size, right? So if you ask, are we allowed to have pets? Are we allowed to have overnight guests? That means people who spend the night with you. These are the rules and regulations, right? So anytime there's a lease, you will have some rules and regulations. Also, another question you can ask is, who is responsible if something gets damaged or breaks, right? So that could be, maybe the repairs, right? So that's kind of the repairs. Like repairs are, when you need to work on the apartment, when you need to fix some things, when something breaks, who pays for it, right? This is part of the contract. This is part of the lease. You need to figure this out before you rent, right? Before you sign the agreement, right? How much are the bills for water, heating, and electricity, right? So these are the utilities. The utilities are water, heating, electricity, might be a few other utilities, and right, you need to ask how much those are, because especially now in some parts of the world, I have some friends in London and actually in the UK, outside of London, and the utility bills are ridiculously high, very, very high. So people might be like, oh, okay, I can pay rent, but then $600 or £500 for the utilities. That might be a little bit too much for them, right? And also, the termination notice is very important. You need to discuss the termination notice. That's, how should we notify you when we want to finish the lease? If you want to finish the lease, move out. If you want to move out of the apartment, some landlords require a termination notice, or they might require a 3 months, 3 months notice, right? That means that you need to give them 3 months, in advance. You need to tell them 3 months in advance. All right, so we just talked about here, giving notice 60 days in advance, right? So to give notice is to tell your landlord that you plan to move. Another thing, to go over something means to discuss in detail. For example, We met with our landlord to sign the lease and go over the rules of the apartment. You go over the rules, you discuss the rules in detail. The lease requires, okay, so for example, the lease requires paying rent on the first day of the month. If not, there's a penalty. Requires means to make something necessary or needed. The lease requires, and that means you have to. You need to pay, on the first day of the month. That's what the lease requires. Next one, utilities, right? So here, utilities, we already talked about that. It's electricity, gas, or water, right? Amenities, right, are the extra features of a property, an apartment or a house. You have amenities. Insurance is what protects you, right? So it's protection from financial loss, right? That's the insurance, because if you get, I don't know, if there's a fire or flood or an accident or something, you need to be protected from financial loss. If not, you're going to have to pay for it, right? And that can destroy you financially. So insurance gives you that safety net where you can be protected from financial loss, where you're not responsible personally for, the whatever happens, the accident or whatever the misfortune. An incident, right, is an event or a happening. It can be good or bad. An incident, typically, an incident might have a negative thing. Oh, there was an incident happened. Something happened, an event that was not, good. And a break-in, right? It's an illegal entry. So if someone breaks in, they break into your house. It was a break-in. They wanted to steal something maybe from you or something. So that's, that is definitely something that that's why you need to get a good alarm system. Okay, very good. Now here we have, let's look at some of these things here. Okay, so we have a patio, a picture of a patio. If you look at the video here, you have a patio, right? It's a nice little area outside. It can be also a porch, front porch, back porch, right? That's where people hang out. In America, we love this, especially in Texas, where I'm from, because we have very nice weather. People like to spend time outdoors. So we can have a barbecue there. That's the patio, right? Or the porch. Also trash pickup. Okay, so the trash pickup, is, as it indicates, right? The rubbish, the trash. So we have the trucks that come by and pick it up. Okay. Also think before you come to class, what are some things that may make you not want to rent an apartment? What are some things that might, dissuade you? That's a nice advanced word. So we have persuade and dissuade. Dissuade will stop you from getting something, right? So something that, or some things that, will make you not want an apartment. Also, maybe talk about the housing market in your city. The housing market, as the name indicates, it's the real estate market. So the housing market includes rents and also, purchases like buying and renting homes, real estate, right? But housing is for homes where people live. If you want to talk about commercial real estate, that's different. So the housing market, the houses and the apartments, the flats, all of that. Also talk about the best areas to live in your city, right? So we're going to watch a video. It's an awesome video. I will send you the link, okay? And in this video, they're going to mention, and they're going to use all of the terms that we've gone over. So it's important to first watch the presentation and then watch the YouTube video, because if you listen to me right now, when you watch the YouTube video, you will understand, oh, I know that word. Oh, David taught me that word. Oh, yes, that means this, that means that. So this is why this presentation helps you, because I break everything down. I break all the words down. I break down the concepts. And what does it mean to break down? I explain them. I package them so that they are easy to understand and they're easily digestible, right? So it's important. Okay, so all of these things here, we have some, if you want to do some homework, you can do part 1 here with the viewing activity. You can do it before or after class. Some students do it after, some students do it before. Okay. Also, we're going to talk about some, maybe do some role playing when one person will pretend to be the realtor and the other person will pretend to be the tenant, right? And you will have a role in dialogue, and then you will ask and answer questions, right? So this is important, to discuss, right? All these questions. So these are, all these questions that you can ask your realtor or the owner. For example, what are the lease terms? Can you grill on your patio, right? If you love grilling, like barbecue, if you like cookouts, then you need to ask, hey, can you grill on the patio? What are the move-in costs, right? The initial costs when you move in. What are other fees and deposits? Do you have other fees? For example, some places have homeowner fees or homeowner association fees. That's like you pay like the building or the neighborhood, and they, I don't know, they cut the trees or they pick up trash or whatever. What is included in the rent? Utilities, right? Will you need renter's insurance? That's important. People don't think about this, but who pays for insurance? Is the apartment insured? Does the owner pay for it, or do you have to pay for it? Okay. Now, safety. Will you feel safe walking from your parking space to your door? Do you have to worry about security? And how often does the rent go up? That's very, very important, especially right now with inflation. Now, I would recommend to secure your rent amount for a certain amount of time. You could sign an agreement for, nowadays, a lot of landlords won't agree to, a long-term, for like 3-4 years. No. They might do it for commercial real estate, but for residential real estate, for housing, 1 year, maybe 2 years if you're lucky. But you need to discuss this. How often will the rent go up, right? So we're going to discuss these. We're going to practice asking these questions. We're going to practice answering these questions. It's very, very important, right? And also here, we also need to, talk about the pet policy. That's important. What's the pet policy? Have you got a pet policy, right? What about, a 2 months notice before moving in or before moving, right? So that's a termination. Right? So before moving in, that's one notice, and then before moving out, right? So that'd probably be the termination notice. Okay, so great discussions here. Great topics here. I'm going to talk about the rules. We're going to talk about parking, right? Incidents, amenities, all right? So, and that is pretty much it, everyone. Okay, so it's going to be an amazing lesson where you'll get all of the vocabulary that you need to talk about housing, talk about the market, talk about the different elements of, renting, but maybe even buying a house, because a lot of these things you can use them when you talk about buying a house. And of course, a lot of the same terms, right? The contracts, the fees, the notices, that can be used in any professional situation. So even though right now we're talking about real estate, these are professional, the top level, expressions and vocabulary terms that you can use in whatever industry you're in. If you're in IT, if you're in banking, if you're in energy, music, production, whatever it is, you can use it. So make sure that you take note, and then as you use them, you'll become more comfortable. And that's why we have the Zoom call. So if you're listening to this and you want to join the Zoom call, send me a message right now so that you can join my call. Everyone is advanced. We'll practice a lot with a partner. I will correct you, but you will ask and you'll answer. You'll discuss things with other students. in the private groups, right? Private Zoom calls, everything is online. You will see results because that's how you get real results. It is by actually speaking, not just listening, not just reading, not just watching YouTube videos, but speaking. It's a skill, and we need to practice the skill if we want to be good at it, right? So without further ado, let's close this podcast. It was great talking to you. Thank you for listening. I hope to hear from you soon, right? And if you have any questions, leave me a comment. I will do my best to answer all your questions in the comments. All right, everyone, have a good one, and I'll see you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.